I played 100,000 years in Planetary Life's demo. This game is a bit of a mix between Simurth and Spore, and you will see why as I go along. So we're starting with an empty planet, and I start tweaking a bit the albedo, the temperatures that I kind of want, because we have to make this planet habitable. Right away, we have two tasks that we can collect for cosmic energy, which is a fundamental currency. Here we can unlock the artifact and a comet. Those are essential. And right away we're going to put two artifacts because that is the maximum. And these will generate now 5 energy instead of 1 energy per turn. Right away you can see that I've used the energy I have for comets. Comets will generate water upon impact, and yes, we have tasks relating to water generation. And in fact, once I reach 30%, I could claim 5000 cosmic energy. That's the right way to start in my opinion. We use that energy to unlock a couple of skills, particularly to create a life form and be able to move life forms and water. And now we just have to wait for the world to set in. In time, you can start seeing that the water is evaporating, so it's not 100% right. I did get that we do have some fertile land. So I continued to tweak the temperatures, put in some comets, until I found a world that I was happy with and I thought that it was rather well balanced. One trick that I found is that water is less likely to evaporate towards colder regions, so I started to create our first life form, a plant, towards the ice snow and the north pole of my planet. I looked a bit around to see the temperature of the area. I know south it's a bit warmer, 11 degrees, but upwards it's ice in the negative. So I upgraded to stem tree, which allowed this plant to go to -5 degrees because I wanted to reach up further north. The first component I'm going to add is the short stem, because doing that would allow me to unlock the short shoots. This is very important if we want the plants to move towards land. Obviously, right now it's low water, so it will be able to survive in areas where it's either water or coast. Then I continue to add components that add the nutritional value, as well as change the aesthetic. So I do like that you can create branches, you can create leaves, you can choose the leaves how you want them to appear, etc. Once I was happy with the outcome, I clicked to evolve and I used 900 cosmic energy and we had our first plant. However, I'm not sure if it was because of the earthquake or just completely random, but our plant started dying, and when I had a look, it was because there was not enough air humidity where I planted. And that's my mistake. I could have checked. I then found another spot that did have low humidity. The plant should survive here, so I'm just gonna skip through because I've recreated the same plant basically. Yes, it did cost me another 900 energy because I was not very careful, but it right away started to spread and we could get 1000 energy back from a task to create a land plant. As I mentioned earlier, because of temperatures, I know that the plant will not spread throughout the whole planet because further down it's already 12 degrees, so I decided to create a new separate plant. Now I do have more or less similar reasoning to why I chose some components. I did obviously create a different stem that allows a higher max temperature. I did put the short stem and the short roots to allow it to spread, and I created something like a cactus, because it's more desert-like. After a few minutes, I saw that both plants started to branch out and spread quite wide, and we have some on land. However, there is a limitation on the land ones that they can't really go too deep on land because they are currently low water. So I decided to evolve another one by upgrading the short stem into medium, which allows us to use large roots and have completely land plants. Now that I had those two plants pretty much set, it was time to start creating some animals. Now I placed a couple of these beads, microorganisms, so they can breed and evolve and mutate by themselves. But I also wanted to create a custom one. We had 3500 cosmic energy. So here is the things you have to pay attention to. First, we're going to upgrade the digestive system. That allows us more max energy. Then, because we have, let's say, 40 energy, we can add components like body part, which does use 10, for example. And by doing a body part, it also allows us to create new components that were not available before, like gills or fins, etc. One of the most important aspects is having a mouth. I added a trunk one, for example. There are different ones, jaws, etc. Because you will see now that once I am adding eyes on stock, to add more sight, which does have some advantages, on the right you will start seeing that the energy limit has surpassed. So I had to undo the eyes very briefly to upgrade the digestive system. The digestive system can only be upgraded if you have a mouth. Now, in my case, I can pretty much go into a full digestive system, and that allows me a very high max energy, and then I can continue to add more features and components like the eyes as well as fins. Here you are seeing the final result. I changed a bit the color and make it more yellowy with some purple accent. I did 3 sets of fins, and it's pretty much a worm with a lot of body parts and long tail. I thought it was cute. We got 1000 energy back for creating a creature, and as well 15,000 for having the complexity of 10 and 20 subsequently. So now we're cosmic energy rich, 17,000, and let's just zoom in and enjoy a short snippet of this magnificent creature that I have evolved. Since I have a lot of cosmic energy, I can create a second creature. I'm gonna speed this one up. I wanted to create something in a way mouse-like. It's not exactly like a mouse, obviously, but I think it's pretty cute. I put a bit of spikes and a dermal plate to kind of add defense to it, and I pretty much just created it. So I wanted to see how these two species evolve separately. Because I had all the cosmic energy, I decided to purchase all the remaining skills right away, which pretty much cost me everything, but that's okay. And I could now remove the cosmic energy artifacts and instead add the change mutation rate and change reproduction rate. So I wanted to see some of these random microorganisms, how they can evolve by themselves. Our first creature already started breeding, so we're 1000 years in, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do times 2 speed, and I'm going to let the game pass. When I returned to check 500 years later, I saw that the cactus has not just spread out through the whole pretty much planet, but it has also evolved. So there are some cacti with flowers, different colors, and I thought that was a pretty nice scene. After 7,000 years, I have checked the area with the high mutation rate, and I saw different creatures, some with eyes, mouths, tails, some had different features, so it was nice to see that they are naturally mutating, so I don't need to evolve them myself. Then I checked the plant catalog, and I realized that there were so many mutations, but it included trees. Our planet was luscious, vibrant, and very habitable. Unfortunately, in the change reproduction area, you can see it was initially placed in water, but that water has pretty much evaporated, so the plants died. I removed that artifact and instead placed the humidity artifact where there was an empty desert patch, and as soon as I put that in, trees started growing in that area. There are also natural disasters that can occur, like this wildfire, which, it pretty much destroyed, I would say, 40% of the planet's vegetation. A whole area burned trees. Those events can impact your ecosystem. After 25,000 years, I wanted to introduce this predator insect thing, and as soon as I placed it, it died. So I just spent a lot of time creating something that did not survive. Then I decided to go with a different route for a predator. I wanted to go into a safer area where there are like smaller organisms. So instead I created something that can fly, two sets of wings, purple, kind of bat wings. I'm not really sure how I would explain this. I placed it here where there are the normal bead creatures, the microorganisms, and here's a zoom in on how you can observe them in the planet. They're pretty interesting shapes. Unfortunately, once they have eaten pretty much all their prey, they did not have much food, so after a few minutes they did get extinct. So instead, we started with beads again and we had natural occurring mutations. This is year 40,000. A very similar story happened. There was a natural mutation for predators, which started to take over the area. However, once they pretty much eaten all the remaining species in that water, they died out. The planet is continued shaped not just by the mutations, but by actions like volcanoes. So yes, the volcanoes do destroy the trees nearby, they do pretty much kill the species there, but they also change the planet. Now we can have a look at year 100,000. As soon as I zoom in, you can see that life form has pretty much changed since we started. Most of this mutation has pretty much occurred naturally. All the trees were natural, a lot of the species evolved from our first species, and before I got into that, I wanted to have a look at the altitude. For example, you can see how the planet has changed since the initial flat surface. I also looked at the humidity and wind currents, etc. It is what's much a well-rounded planet, I would say. It was time to zoom in and look at what the species looked like. In the mutation area, we had these flying turtles that I don't know why they kind of became quite similar to our initial species, and it was a pretty populated sea area. Then once we go a bit away from that water, I started to see a much wider range of mutation and variety. If I look, there's 119 species of plants, and yes, you can click, you can see all the evolution history, and most of them will have been extinct by now. And when it comes to creatures, I had 173 species. You can see most of them grew wings, but there are a lot of variety. Now I wanted to have a look at how the creatures have evolved from the planet view. So we have some that grew feathered wings, and I think they were pretty interesting to see. You can see they've all originated from that long yellow worm, but for example this one is grayer, they have a different type of skin. In another area there was this six-legged creature, and not only is it just land, but it grew horns, it grew a different set of fins on its back. So that was quite interesting to see. Perhaps very cute is this very long flying peanut. They have kind of what I call bat wings, but they also lost the other set of fins and tails, so they're just an elongated peanut with one set of wings. And obviously I had to look at the very bright pink creatures. There were not many of them. They only had one set of legs, so sometimes they evolve, sometimes they kind of devolve. Obviously I could not go over all the 170 species, but this game has been amazing, and that's just the demo for the current stage, because there will also be a cell stage and a civilization stage. Let me know what was your experience with the game, and would you like to see more? I thank you for watching and I hope to see you around. Bye bye.